city councils and councils at large are coming out this evening making their appeal to the audience. Again, we just like to offer this forum for the citizens of Flint to know who the candidates are that they're going to vote for on November 5th. And the candidates did a great job of making their appeal, letting people know who they are, what they stand for, and why they want your vote on November 5th. So hopefully we want to make everyone here as informed as they possibly can be when making a decision on the 5th of November. At this time, we're going to go into our mayoral debate. Mr. Harrison, up back. I'm going to ask this question. Some people may or may not have known, when you come in, we try to create a portion of this event where the audience would be able to participate. And if you came in and you wanted to ask a question of the mayoral candidates, we were taking your questions in a ballot lottery box at the back. If you choose to do that, you need to do it right now, or we're moving forward, all right? Mr. Harrison, do we have any questions from the audience? We have 2 questions from the audience. Everyone else is satisfied, it seems like. All right? Listen, if they only have 2, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But again, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out this evening. It's a very important evening. And we do have our 2 participants here. We do have to recognize the incumbent mayor, Judith Flanagan Kennedy. Be recognized, please. And your opponent, City Council President, John Timothy Fayman. Again, before we move forward with that particular part of the event this evening, there's a couple of things we'd like to just make quick announcements on. Again, we'd like to make everyone as politically aware as possible. We have in the house Mr. Ralph Edwards. Ralph, would you like to come forward for a minute, please? Ralph has a brief announcement here that we think is very important for people to hear.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me this evening. Good evening, everyone. If you don't recognize me, think of Agnes Rico. She's the chairperson of the Lynn City Democratic Committee. I'm the chairperson of the Swampscott Democratic Town Committee. And I wanted to let you all know, particularly on a great night like this, 2 things. One, the Massachusetts Democratic Party is committed to empowering and engaging communities of color in the democratic process, in the electoral process. And those of us that are involved in the party want to go beyond just registering voters during a specific election and electing the president and electing the governor. We want to work with communities of color and organizing those communities around identifying leadership and supporting candidates, providing guidance to candidates on ways to run and so on. And so on, and there are flyers in the back of the room, on Tuesday, October 22nd at 7 o'clock, there's going to be a meeting of concerned citizens on what is called the State Party's Communities of Color Project. And we invite all of you, anyone who's interested in empowering communities of color and being involved in the electoral process to come to that meeting. It's the 22nd, 7 p.m. On Melvin Avenue within walking distance of this. Now, I had made a phone call because at this very night, there's a meeting of the state committee where they're electing the new chair of the state party committee. I'm just going to make a prediction because I didn't make my phone connection, and I'm just going to make a prediction that our Senator Tom McGee will be the next president, the next chair. So we look forward to the city of Lynn, and we're working with other communities on the North Shore to have communities of color engaged in the electoral process. So please join us on the 22nd at 7 o'clock to initiate this effort to engage communities of color. Thank you again for this opportunity.
Thank you. I don't need a mic. So listen, we have 2 petitions back up there. Bob, you wanna, so I don't really spoil what it is. I know one of them has to do with minimum wage, the initiative petitions, correct? You wanna tell the folks that we encourage you, please, on your way out, or when you get a break, just go over there and sign it. Bob, you wanna explain briefly?
One's to raise the minimum wage to $10.50 by January 1st, 2016. And one's for paid 6 days to get equivalent on your work hours. So we need 100,000 signatures on each ballot. You get it on the ballot each year. And so if you haven't signed it, please sign it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Damon. Thank you, Bob. Okay, at this time, we'd like the candidates for mayor to step forward, please. You see, again, like, take this opportunity to thank everybody for coming out this evening to participate in this year's debate for our mayor of the city of Lynn. I think it's very important that each and every one of us take part in the political process and try to be as informed as we possibly can, because the office of mayor is a tremendous responsibility. And I think both of these candidates realize that it's a major undertaking. It shouldn't be taken lightly. And I think that's why they're out here this evening. They've been to many debates all throughout the season. I've seen them there, and they made their points. But this evening, I think that their challenge is going to be put forth to both of them, because Lynn is a very diverse city. It's a big city with 90,000 people, and I think it's actually more than that. So they have a challenge in front of them. And they have the opportunity and the challenge of trying to manage a city this size with all the diverse communities in there, and those are some of the questions we'll be addressing this evening. So again, I'd like to thank City Council President Tim Phelan, our Mayor, Judith Kennedy, for coming out this evening. For people that may not have been here in the beginning, there's some basic ground rules we're going to lay out. And number one is going to be our timekeeper, Damon Harrison here. We're going to allow the candidates a minute and a half to answer each question, and there will be a 45-second rebuttal for each candidate. Also, we're asking that people be respectful of one another. The audience as well be respectful. We take questions from the audience. If there are any questions that we have already covered here or we deem inappropriate, we will not be asking those questions. We want to be respectful of everyone that's here. Excuse me 1 second.
Silence phones.
Yes, that will be helpful. If anyone has a cell phone, we'd like very much if you would silence that, please, to avoid any interruption and distraction for the candidates this evening. Okay, that being said, we will get started. The moderator for the first section of our questioning will be Mr. Roy Rhodes. He is one of the co-chairs of the Community Brotherhood Scholarship Fund. Mr. Roy Rhodes will begin the questioning.
Thank you. As for those of you that do know me, there's something that's very important to me, and that is the education of our kids in the town in the big city of Lynn. I've worked very hard in dealing with our youth, raising funds, scholarships. I love our kids here, and I will do what I have to do to make it a better place for them, to ensure that they have a history, that is a history of having good education, so that when they move on, they can get decent jobs here in this great town. Now, the first question that I have is, given the extreme diversity in the school system of Lynn, with the student body composed of well over 50% children of color, do you believe that the faculty and the administrators should be reflective of the student population that they serve? And two, what, if anything, would you do to increase these numbers? Currently, we have 2 African American principals in the entire system. And I would like to know, what would you do as mayor?
Would you like me to stand here or?
Wherever you like.
I can see over this podium. Well, there's a short-term answer to that and there's a longer-term answer to that. So with regard to the short-term answer, I think we have to cast our recruiting net wider, and we have been doing that. I have asked the superintendent and the human resources director of the schools to expand the publications and the websites on which they are advertising our openings, so that we can attract more people, more diverse people into the community and into the recruiting system. Longer term, I think a lot of times we forget that the teachers come through the pipeline to become the principals, to become the administrators. And so we're starting out a little bit behind the 8 ball there, but things are catching up. It's a slow process. One of the things that we have done to improve the number of people of color who are graduating with education degrees is to partner with Salem State University. They have a mentoring program where they specifically go into the middle schools so that they can recruit children of that age who are interested in a career in teaching. And they guide them through high school and up into Salem State University to give them that, that guidance and that mentoring that they need. So I'm like, time up, so.
Just so you know, it's 30, it's not 50, it's 30 seconds.
Okay.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me tonight. I see a lot of familiar faces and friends out in the audience. To give you some more specific numbers, right now, Lynn has 1,606 full-time employees. That is by the Massachusetts School and District Profile by the Department of Education. In the city of Lynn, 78% of the students are minority students. 9.8% are Asian, 11% are African American, 53% are Hispanic, and 22% are white. You look at the numbers when it comes to faculty, full-time employees, 98.8% of the full-time employees are white. 0.1% are Hispanic, 0.03% are African American, and 0.01% are Asian in the Lynn school system right now. What we have to do is focus on a specific minority outreach program. There are some very well-respected organizations out there, such as the National Alliance of Black Scholar Educators, the Black Educators Alliance of Massachusetts, specifically targeting people that are qualified and have the ability to come into a school system and apply for a position. We have to actually make sure we reach out to these organizations and post all openings that we have at all levels in the school system so that we bring in talent. Because talent, it doesn't matter what color your skin is, it matters what's in your heart. And that's what we need in the city of Lynn.
They do have a 45 seconds, by the way.
Oh, I don't
It's awesome.
know.
Okay. You sure you? That's gonna be a long night.
What he said. You know, the other thing I think that we really need to do is we really have to focus and target on our internal guidance departments. The kids go, there's a government class in at Classical that kids are are coming and volunteering for all the candidates. And I had a girl, a beautiful young girl, African American, came and volunteered. I always ask, how are you doing in class? And she's A and B student. I asked her how she did on the SATs. She said, well, I didn't take them yet. And I said, well, what year are you? Senior. Well, I mean, are you going to go to college next year? She said, oh, well, I don't know. I said, well, what'd your guidance counselor say? Well, I haven't met with her, or him. So I said, you know, she asked me to sign her sheet for the qualified amount of hours, and I said to her, I'm not going to sign that sheet unless you make an appointment with your guidance counselor. Come back here and tell me that you made an appointment with your guidance counselor. You know, and it's unfortunate that that our kids are having to reach out to the guidance department. We have some great ones, and this should be the opposite. Thank you.
Thank you. There's one other item that applies to education and to our youth, and that is the closing of institutions for after-school programs here in the city of Lynn that are free. And currently, you know, if our kids want to go to something that is productive, something that is efficient, we don't have that right now. And so my question is, as mayor, what are we going to be doing for these kids after school? Because if you don't do anything for them after school, they will do something for themselves after school. And it may not be productive. So we want to hear something that is productive and efficient for our kids in after school programs.
Thank you. Bring up a good point. I have 8 brothers and sisters, 5 boys, 4 boys that were 1 year apart. And my father's philosophy always was, if you don't keep a boy busy, they're going to get in trouble if they have nothing to do. There are actually a lot of decent programs in the city of Lynn. But what I find challenging is when you talk to kids and you talk to students, they don't know where they are. You know, everyone knows, well, Kaya has a nice program, or the Lynn YMCA has a nice program. But when I really did my research and I found out how many there were out there and how difficult it was for me, the city council president, to identify them, I started thinking. I said, we need to have actually a mayor's youth line, a hotline, a Lynn Youth Zone, where students can actually call the mayor's office and have a resource. What is available? I went through Raw Arts, Lynn Arts, Lynn Camp, Girls, Healthy Futures, Boys and Girls Club, CMCC, Teen Scene, the library, the museum, Part of the Solution, Gannon Youth, Junior Achievement. There were so many different things out there. And the only place this was on the website of the Lynn Police Department that was a couple of years old. And I don't know what youth is going to go scan the Lynn Police Department to try to find out what's out there. When you staff it with youth, what you also do is you put job seekers who are looking for kids for after school to work for them, and employers, well, you know what I mean. And you know, so that there's one resource they can call and they can put people together. Thank you.
I think it's a point well taken that the advertising of the programs may not be as widespread as we would like. But we do have a couple of initiatives that I don't know if everybody is aware of. There is a Lynn Youth Drop-In Center. It is currently open, and it's free. I have the information right here. It runs at the Lynn Tech Fieldhouse from 6 to 9 p.m. every Friday night, now through November 22nd. We also established for the first time a teen room at the Lynn Public Library. And it is not just a place where the kids can go and do homework and read books. They have computers, it's interactive, it's made for teens to be comfortable there. There's always adult supervision there. And the third thing that we have is through Lynn Parks and Recreation, depending on what season we have, there are free programs. There are youth basketball clinics, youth baseball clinics, some swim times during the winter time over again at the Lynn Tech Pool House. And I think, as I said, the idea of advertising them more is a very good one, but the youth do have places to go.
Okay, switching gears here. when we look at the city of Lynn, we look for jobs. I will tell you this, if you're a person of color and you want a job at GE, you had better have a Bachelor of Science degree, even if you want to sweep the floors. That's a fact. That's just the way it is. So, if you are a high school graduate that is coming out of Lynn Tech or St. Mary's or English and you want a job, what do you do? And where do you go? Now, we hear about the casino that is coming to East Boston. Now, the question is, do we have our fingers crossed that it's going to come? I think a lot of us do, because there are some youth in this town that are not going to be able to go to colleges. And so there's an opportunity that there may be jobs. My question is, if the casino comes to East Boston, and there is a fair chance that the city of Lynn may want to entice a hotel or motel into this great town. And the reason why I say that is because I'm from North Carolina. And when my family comes here, they have to go to Peabody, Revere, or Saugus to stay. But if we were to have a hotel on the Linway, would we share or would we make sure that the members of this great city have jobs? And I think I would love to hear from both of you about the opportunities the possibility that a casino is coming to East Boston and how it would affect job opportunities here in the city of Lynn.
Not to answer in 90 seconds, but I'll do my best. There are host communities and surrounding communities when it comes to casinos. The host communities are the cities or towns in which the casinos are actually situated. Surrounding communities is not a literal term. It means that it is a city that will be affected by the location of a casino in a particular spot. So what we are trying to do in Lynn is to be designated as a surrounding community. And we have put in a letter to the, excuse me, and I will tell you exactly to whom the letter has gone. The Sterling Suffolk Racecourse, and requesting for an applicant designation of the city of Lynn as a surrounding community and a voluntary disbursement of funds for impact analyses. So we are looking to get that designation. With regard to the hotel being built on the Linway, we have actually been in talks with somebody who is asking to do just that. I think a good example, I don't believe we can compel a private landowner to give jobs to Lynn people. However, we have done something with Kettle Cuisine that was very good. When they came and relocated to the city of Lynn, we asked if they would hold a job fair here. And they did, and they had over 70 people come in from the city of Lynn to seek employment there. And I think that was a good model that worked well, and I'd like to see it work again if we have a hotel built. Okay. All right. But as I was saying, I can expand a little bit about that. Doesn't have to be with city council approval to build the hotel. So the city really has no authority to compel people to do anything like that, other than to invite them and make it easy for them to recruit the Lynn candidates for those jobs.
Thank you. Applying to be a surrounding community is something I've been advocating for a long time. There's what's called a RFA application -2. The first part, it's actually more important if you have a dialogue with the applicant and actually become part of the application process. Have them include you in the application process, which we're not included in the application process just yet. If we're not included, there's 3 different steps. And I hope we are. I think that we actually should be assisting in the process to get the casino at Suffolk Downs in Revere. But that being said, one of the things that I'm proposing is what I'm calling the Invest Lynn project. And it's a way to attract businesses and give jobs in the city of Lynn. And everybody talks about developing the waterfront, let's bring a hotel, let's expand our commercial tax base, and that sounds great, but how do you do it? How do you bring businesses here? You have to give them an incentive. The biggest problem that businesses have in trying to start is having no access to capital, no money to actually start. The City of Lynn's budget is $266 million. We put it in a bank. That's what we do. Our return on investment is nominal at best. We should make banks, any depository that wants to hold our money, give us something back. If they make money on our taxpayer dollars, so we put that out to bid. We put that $266 million, or whatever is the liquid cash at the time. Who wants to hold it and make money on our money? And if you want to hold it, the conditions are this: that you have to give us a higher return rate, and two, you have to give anybody that wants to build in Lynn, locate in Lynn, relocate in Lynn, a lower commercial loan rate. And on top of that, you can actually give a lower rate for a minority or a female-owned business. That's a real incentive. You make the banks market it, so when somebody walks into the Bank of America or Eastern Bank and they say, hey, what do you have for programs if you're a business developer? Hey, we have this great program in Lynn. The lending rate is lower than prime. That's how you do it.
I just want people to be aware that we already have, through the EDIC, the small business assistance loans that are available. And since I've been mayor, we have given out 54 of those loans, totaling about $3.25 million. So if there is any Lynn business that is looking for that lower rate financial assistance, it is available, and it's available through the EDIC.
But it's not on the scale of $266 million. You know, the City Council, I sponsored through the council the tax incremental financing agreement for Kettle Cuisine to come to Lynn. But what also we should do, because I'm a big believer, you know, the foundation for everything is education. You know, whether it's crime, anything, it's education. I believe, you know, keeping crime down, education on one end and giving people jobs on another. So what we do is we expand that tax incremental financing. So if somebody comes to the City of Lynn, where we give a tax break if they invest in their own building now, we give them a further tax break if we mandate that they hire qualified Lynn applicants or Lynn residents. So if someone from Marblehead, or someone from Hamilton, and someone from Lynn is applying, there's an incentive to hire the Lynn person with a tax break.
Thank you very much, and I would like to turn the debate over to Darrell Murkison.
Thank you very much, Roy. We're going to continue on. Our next question is going to be regarding public safety. Regarding public safety, this particular question focuses on the police department. And I'd like to first state that, first of all, we recognize and we acknowledge that the police department is a very dangerous job, a very difficult job. And we're extremely thankful for the things that they do. But we still have this particular question. Given the fact that there has been 3 deadly shootings by police in the past 14 months, one on English Street, one in City Hall Square, and most recently in Kingsland Apartments. 2 of which of those shootings were reported to have been the victims reported to have been unarmed, but they had attempted to grab the service revolver of the officer. Of course, the officers have every right to protect and defend themselves. But would you be in favor of additional training for our officers when they are dealing with or faced with unarmed suspects so that deadly force may not have to be an option? We are all very much aware that discharging a firearm on public streets puts everyone at risk. I think that we may able to start. So would you be in favor of additional training for these officers? Mayor Kennedy.
Yes, I would. I have provided additional funds for training in the police budget since I took office. I have increased the number of personnel so that we can get a lot of the preventative policing component up to speed. Things like the CLT, the bike cops. There are now 6 CLTs, 1 in every sector of the city, so they cover the entire city now. We also have the SROs in the schools, and they work as a preventative measure. We also have a liaison with Straight Ahead Ministries, and what they do is they work with the reintegration of former inmates so that when they come back, they're not coming back to the life that they were leading before they went to jail. The training is always good. We want to have a professionally trained police force, and I think we do. But as I said, the training has been ongoing, and I continue to keep that funded in all of my budgets for the past 4 years.
Just answering the question directly, the answer is yes, I would. On all of those shootings, I have the fortune of being able to call the chief of police because of my position. And he never, I ask hard questions on all those, and he can't divulge any part of the investigation or any of the nuances. But one of the things that I did realize every time I spoke to him is I'm not qualified. I'm not qualified to tell him. I never realized that they have different levels of holsters. You know, what secures a gun, what doesn't secure a gun. But I've learned over time. And I've learned, you know, that they have different steps that they have to put in place, and they have to follow those steps. I'm a big believer that if somebody has a question to the integrity of an investigation, that there should be an open third-party investigation. I think that that's something that the people of the city of Lynn and any city deserve. I think the unfortunate part is the loss of life here, regardless of the reason behind it. The city council during this time period has supported a wide range of grants that have come through, you know, department training grants, I mean, literally millions of dollars over the past few years, unanimously, every time it comes through. Everything that comes through, any grant that goes to the police department comes to the city council first. But, you know, if I become aware of something that was done inappropriate, I would be willing myself to, is that the end? Sorry.
Get a lot of accidents there.
Mayor Kennedy, do you have anything to add to that?
No.
Council Bailey? I'd just like to add a little bit to that. I had the fortune of talking with the police chief as well in regard to these shootings that are going on in the city. And he, like the mayor and Councilor Phelan, he's in favor of additional training as well. And he did make some mention of what their protocol is. And that's escalating type of violence to meet the violence that they're faced with. And that would start with some kind of verbal response first, and then they would go to a nightstick, then they would go to pepper spray, and then they would go to a gun for deadly force. But at any one time, if the assailant escalates out of that order, the officer has every right to jump right to whatever he needs if his life is being threatened. So again, I think our question was this, that 3 deadly shootings in the city of Lynn in the past year is 3 too many. You know, especially when we're dealing with people that are unarmed. And there has to be a better way of dealing with that. It shouldn't really come to that. So that's the conversation we've had with the police chief already. And again, the mayor has emphasized, along with Councilor Phelan, that they'd be in favor of having some additional training to make the streets safer for all of our citizens. So we're moving in the right direction with that. Our next question is regarding city image, and what I would term the disparity of maybe funds that are being allocated to different parts of the city. That's our view and our perspective. This is a classic case of the haves and the have-nots. When you drive by or walk along the larger part of Lynn Common, and you see overgrowth disrepair surrounding the Frederick Douglass Bandstand, in a water fountain, which is rarely flowing and is often as dry as summer pavement. On the other hand, if you drive by or walk along Flax Pond and Chestnut and Boston Street and Broadway, it is regularly manicured grass, cleanly kept, and a light that beams from the fountain in the pond. I think that's absolutely beautiful. But why is that? And what are your plans, if any, would you do to change this? And let me emphasize, this disparity of care and attention shown in different parts of the city. In Ward 1, there are swans and there are ducks on the pond. In Ward 5 and 6, there are pigeons and rats on the commons. What would you do?
Thank you. I don't think there should be any disparity in any part of the city, whatever your background, your nationality, your income level, where you live, if you live in a nice neighborhood, something in the middle, or in a poor neighborhood. Unfortunately, the city council doesn't set the budget. We don't have the ability to do that. The only thing we can do is cut the budget. So where funds are allocated, we don't have the ability to do anything. However, what the city council did do, and what we have the ability to do, is this past December we passed a $4 million bond. And that $4 million bond was voted unanimously by the city council. In it included the redoing, actually in large part by Buzzy Barton was a big advocate for this, the Breed Park Courts, $150,000. Cook Street Playground, $60,000. Fry Playground and Court, $60,000. The Lynn Commons Bandstand Rehab, $225,000, and the Lynn Common Fountains Repairs, $75,000. McManus Field, on the bond, $400,000. Sagamore Street Playground, $50,000. Sheridan Street Playground, $22,000. I also think one of the things that was very, very important, I voted 13 separate times before the people of the city of Lynn voted to support it, the Marshall Middle School. Everything from feasibility studies to funding feasibility studies to taking of the land. And I think that's something that is not only important for education, but for the quality of life, for improvement of neighborhood and property values itself. Thank you.
Everybody in this room has recognized that I've spent the past 4 years trying to raise the standard of living for everybody here in the city of Lynn. And it's interesting that you bring up the haves and the have-nots. Really, it was a question of timing that Flax Pond was done first. But I can tell you that planned for and funded already for the Commons is new fencing, new lighting. It will actually be brighter. It will be more period lighting, Victorian lighting. There are going to be mile markers placed throughout the Commons so that people can exercise and know how far they are walking with those. And not only is the bandstand being repaired, but it is going to be repaired so that it is accessible. It's going to have a lift from ground level up to the stage of the bandstand so that everybody will be able to use it. And with regard to McManus Field, there was $400,000 bonded, and at the time I had applied for a grant for $400,000 to see if we could improve McManus Field. And when the bond passed, and I signed it, I was asked by Community Development if I wanted to continue along with the additional $400,000 that I wanted for McManus Field. And I said yes. So not only are we getting the regrading of the fields that was mentioned by Councilor Phelan, but we are putting a splash pad down at McManus Field, so the children from West Lynn will have the same opportunity as the children who live by Flax Pond to play in the splash pad on a hot summer day.
Thank you. Before we allow the rebuttal on that, we do have someone who's blocking someone's driveway here. We have a GMC, I'm assuming that's a truck or some sort. You have it? Okay. Thank you. Any rebuttal?
Oh, no.
Mayor Kennedy. All right, I think that the candidates made a fair assessment of what's going on as far as disparity in those particular areas and what their plans are to move forward to correct those things. Now moving forward to our last question in this particular segment. But I'd like to preface this by saying that some of the questions we're asking here this evening, some people may remember at the last electoral season that we had, that these questions are very similar. There's a reason for that. Right? We continue to ask these same questions. We have the same issues because there's still issues. And these questions and these issues need to be addressed. So just bear with us and understand what we're trying to put forward here when we're asking questions that may seem a bit redundant. The last question we have here for this particular segment before we move on to the audience portion is regard to minority hiring in municipal jobs. Again, this question is going to be prefaced by some information leading up to the actual question. City or municipal jobs are often thought of as the backbone and foundation of any city. These jobs are respectable and well-paying and viewed as honorable positions in society. This is the reason why they are so desired by so many people. For generations, these positions have afforded hard-working, good people the opportunity to build a happy and productive life for themselves and their families. For many years, these positions were exclusively for a select group of people. For many years, they've been very exclusive. Many communities have embraced the climate of a post-racial society, and they espouse the rhetoric of inclusion for a better overall society, but not really in Lynn. This is a particular concern to the African American community because we as a whole, we just don't see it taking place in Lynn. When you visit City Hall and all of its many departments, you will see just one African American. I say again, when it comes to hiring well-qualified African Americans for municipal jobs, we don't see it. Where is the inclusion for us or other people of color? What will the mayor of Lynn do to make significant changes in these clearly exclusionary hiring practices when it comes to African Americans and other people of color? Question number one. Do you believe that municipal employees should be reflective of the community in which they serve? And do you think it's beneficial overall to have those municipal employees reflect the communities in which they serve? The final part, why or why not would you believe in this? And how would you bring this to fruition if you wish to change it? So it's a three-part question. We'll extend the answer period to 2.5 minutes. Yes, Mary Kennedy.
I think the first place anybody starts in showing that they're committed to such a proposal is within their own office. And I can say that of the 7 people that I have hired since my time being mayor, 4 of them have been people of color. So I put my money where my mouth is when I say I want everything to be inclusionary. Furthermore, I don't know if you're aware of this, Darryl, but we established a new position called a sanitarian, and the gentleman that we hired for that is African American. So I know it's okay. I just wanted to let you know. I believe you were talking about a woman that works in the assessor's office.
Yes.
As the other person. And again, this is something that is near and dear to me. When I was before you 4 years ago as a candidate, I was asked if I would commit to calling for a minority hiring list for the police department, and that I did. I kept that word. I also have been trying to make things fairer for those who are being exposed to Lynn jobs for the first time. Because as you state quite rightly, a lot of times in Lynn, it was who was connected, who knew somebody. So this, for the 4 years that I've been in office, we've been doing the summer jobs program by lottery. Anybody who wants to apply, their name goes into a lottery system. It's put in room 302 right out in the public for everybody to see. We will have somebody from the general public who will reach into that barrel and pull out the children who's going to be eligible for the summer jobs. So we have been taking steps to change this. Again, it's a long process, it's a slow process, but I do believe the city has been far more inclusive in the past 4 years than it had been in the past. And I look forward to continuing with that practice.
I agree with that philosophy. Unfortunately, I can't stand up here and say that I've hired anybody because the city council doesn't have that ability to give out jobs or hire people. We don't have it. We're not part of the process, and we don't have the authority underneath the city charter. So I don't hire anybody that's Latino, I don't hire anybody that's white, I don't hire anybody that's African American. But what I do, there are a couple of boards that we have appointing authority on. They're non-paying. I think they're important. One of the ones that we just created was the Human Rights Commission. Hong Net mentioned it earlier this year. I was a major force behind the scenes helping him with that. I had 6 appointees to the Human Rights Commission. 3 were minorities, 3 were women, 2 were African American, 1 was Latino. We also get to appoint to the Cemetery Commission. The Cemetery Commission, over the past few years, we've had 3 appointees. I appointed 1 African American, 1 Latino, 1 woman. The City Council also has an appointee to the Citizens Advisory Board. When I first went on the council, my very first person, which was in 1994, to the Citizens Advisory Board was African American. Beyond that, you only have my good word as to what I will do in the future, but I think I do have a reputation for honesty. I do have a reputation for being direct. I am a coach in all youth sports. I treat everybody the same. I have and I'm going to close with this, and I love to say this, I coach a girls soccer team, and it's all 17 years old now, and I've coached them for several years. They're made up of African Americans, Latinos, Asian, white, Colombian, but when you close your eyes and you hear them talk, they're all just a bunch of teenage girls that won't stop talking. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Councilor Phelan and Mayor Kennedy. But there's a little bit more to that question. I'd just like to add a little bit. It's for the audience here, some information as well, and I will pose that in the form of a question after I just read this here. Since 2010, under the tenure of Mayor Kennedy, there have been 29 police officers hired, 2 of which were African American. During the same period, 61 firefighters have been hired, 5 of which were African American. In years prior to Mayor Kennedy taking office, her predecessors had a record of there being 1 African American firefighter hired in 16 years. So during her tenure, she's had 5 African American firefighters hired in 4 years. And we think that's a lot better than 1 in 16 years, but in no way are people satisfied with that. So Mayor Kennedy, the question would be to you is, are you satisfied and are you willing to move forward to increase these numbers?
I am held back in some ways because, as you know, Darryl, both the police and fire come from a civil service list, and I am compelled to go by taking the top people on the list unless there is a reason to bypass that person. veterans will automatically get preference on those lists. They move up as a result. If you're a disabled veteran, you jump right to the top of the list. If you're a veteran, you go above those and below the disabled veterans, and then it goes by scores. So I don't have too much leeway in where I am going to be able to pick my hires from. They come off that list. Where I do get to have some preference is in a tie. And once again, all I can tell you is that I have not ever used my position to pick somebody because I know them, because I like them, because they have a family member who's been on the job. I have been looking for the most qualified candidates in every way I can for every position that I'm filling, and I'm going to continue to do that. And I would hope that there are more people who are encouraged to take the civil service exam, and that we can have more people of color scoring on those exams at a point from which I can choose them for those jobs. Because I truly do believe that these jobs that we have are good jobs, and they should be reflective of the community that they serve. And I'll do what I can do to make that happen.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Council Phelan, you seeking the position of mayor, you realize the numbers that I put forward right now. If you were to be chosen as the next mayor of the city of Atlanta, what is your basic philosophy upon making municipal jobs reflective of the community they serve, and what measures would you take to increase these numbers?
I think the philosophy has to be twofold. One, we have to work with the high school kids and educators to make sure that we have kids of all backgrounds, all nationalities, African Americans, that want to go into public safety. So we have more people taking the civil service exams. However, I do believe, I'm a firm believer, that your police force, your fire force, your fire department, your city council, your school committee should be a reflection of your community. You know, and I'm a realist. If there is a African American police officer walking down the street with a partner who's white, and there is an African American kid coming down the street, he's going to feel more comfortable talking to the African American police officer. That's just a fact. People don't like to hear it. It's not politically correct to say, but we have an obligation and responsibility to try to, you know, communicate with our youth to decrease crime, and that's one way to do it. Thank you.
I'd like to thank you to both candidates. Any rebuttal? Okay, we'd like to move on to the next portion. I'd like to call to the podium former NAAC President Jesse Timothy Martin.
Okay, folks, the first thing I want to do is we're going to take 10 seconds for everybody to stand up and stretch your legs. Please do that. Everybody stand up, stretch your legs. Because you've been sitting here for a while and there's a lot of information going back and forth. While you're standing up, stretching your legs, I do want to say something about the hiring practices. Only that many moons ago, and I'm not even sure if they even call it a Part 10 list anymore, but the mayor has the option to request a civil service hiring list targeted for either strictly Lynn citizens or people of color. So that can be done. The city of Boston was under a mandate for every 3 people, white people they hired, they had to hire 1 person of color. So there is a way to do this, and there is a way to access this information. Oh, I got more. I got a question to go with it. You know, I get my own question. What we're going to do is we're going to pull questions out of the hat from people in the audience. Mr. Harrison, please come up. Joey Harrison. Everybody give Joey a hand.